Hello knitters, Barbara Benson here. I'm an independent knitwear designer who also likes to make videos here on my YouTube channel, Watch Barbara Knit. Make sure to check in the description notes below the video where you will find links to all of my online shenanigans, including how to get my patterns to knit up for yourself, how to join the Watch Barbara Knit Facebook group, how to support me on Patreon, and how to get the Watch Barbara Knit merchandise. And always, anything I talk about in the video will be linked in the description notes below. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about something that I have been kind of keeping under my hat. How do you say, like, disguising something? I've had to keep a lid on it for quite some time because it was a third-party publication, and now it has hit the presses and is available, and I am so excited to be able to share it with you. I have a pattern in the new Ply Magazine. Now, Ply Magazine is a magazine for spinners. And you might be like, Barbara, why do you have an article, a pattern in a spinner's magazine? You don't spin, and you are 100% correct. I do not spin, but knitting is one of the options of what you can do with yarn after you have created it. So I'm going to show you my new pattern, and then if you want to stick around after I show that, we can talk a little bit more about what goes into being in a third-party publication, and we will look through the book. But to kick things off, here it is. So this is a cowl, a neck. So this issue is the neck and shoulders issue, and I made this large, somewhere between a cowl and a cape. The name of the pattern is A Wee Bit Twisted. You stick around, I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. I probably should have bookmarked it, but here it is. So here it is. Knit it, A Wee Bit Twisted. And there we go. There's the picture right there. Isn't it fun? And specifically, the yarn I was sent that a lovely artist spun, and then it was sent to me, is a bulky weight yarn. So this is a bulky weight pattern. The magazine tells you how to spin it. But if you are not a spinner and wanted to make this, it's bulky weight. There's more information in the magazine. So this is the picture that I have, as you saw in the magazine, to promote it. Now, I'm going to share with you, so this is the picture I took of it in my house last spring when I finished it. As you can see, it is nowhere near as fancy as the beautiful photographs in the magazine. The magazine has gorgeous pictures in it along with the instructions, but I thought I would show you. You know what? I'm going to put a bookmark in there so we can come back to it. I wanted to show you the picture so you can really see the shape. So this has, because it's the bulky, I wanted this kind of stand up, I think this is called a funnel neck, sort of. It is not as close to the neck as a turtleneck would be. It doesn't really kind of fall down the way a cowl would. It's not drapey. It stands up, and I think it looks really cool. And then we have this shaping that makes it go out. Now, here is another picture. It can also be worn in this fashion. So essentially what we have is we have this spine that you're seeing. So there are two spots where there are increases, right? And you can either have them on your shoulders, and that way you have the points on your elbows and it goes straight across the front and the back. It looks exactly like this on the back. Or you can rotate it and have the point in the front and the back. And I think it looks really cool either way, or you could do an asymmetrical thing. Whatever, it's going to be a nice, warm, snuggly piece. Now, here is a close-up. This is why the pattern is called A Wee Bit Twisted. This yarn that I was sent was a beautifully hand-spun marled yarn. Now, what marling means is that when the plying happens, you're plying together your plies are 2 different colors, or 3 different colors if you have 3 plies. So it's, again, we're getting into spinning stuff, which I don't understand and I really can't explain, but essentially it's a 2-ply yarn where 1 ply is that orange color and 1 ply is a variegated color. So they're spun together, which creates a marled yarn. And what's happening here is I really wanted to let this yarn be on showcase because someone hand spun this yarn. Someone put a lot of time and effort into this, and the yarn is the star. And my job as a designer was to create a design to enhance and present this yarn on like a little pedestal, like look how beautiful it is. So I didn't want to quite do stockinette. It looked nice in stockinette, but what I did is this has a twisted element to it. So there are some twisted stitches, which causes an interesting angle, which is creating this texture here. Since it's knitting around, the only stitches involved are knit and then some knit through back loop. And that twisting, I think, creates a really interesting texture, but it's really soothing and simple to knit. Now there's also color work because I was sent 2 colors. And here is a close-up, and you can see my little fingers. What do you say? How do I, there we go. I think it's this hand. I don't know. So here you can see the gold color and the variegated separately. Okay, so they're not really marled together here. And you can see it, this up here, the ribbing is the variegated, and here is the variegated being worked in color work with the gold. And I really think it is quite lovely. And what I did is I moved and created another element, this horizontal element, to show off that marled. So we've got all kinds of angles, and since the marling is on a diagonal, it's moving. It's just texture, but again, the only stitches involved here are really knit through the back loop, and slip and purl. It's a very simple pattern. So let's go back here so you can see, and you could really see in that picture. So that is the neck. This band right here is the cowl top, which you can't really see in this picture. This really shows nicely how it drapes, and it shows the big panel of color work. Oops, my finger disappeared. The big panel of color work at the bottom. This you can see there's a panel of color work at the top. My finger keeps going off. There's a panel of color work at the top and the panel of color work at the bottom. So that is the pattern. Now in the pattern, there are also instructions here on, because I wanted to include it, because again, one of the things about spinning your own yarn is that your yardage might not be precisely the X number of yards in 100 grams. So I have a whole section in the magazine on variations. So if you only have 1 color and would like to make the whole cowl in the twisted solid texture, it tells you how to do that. If you would like to make the whole cowl in just the color work, instructions to do that. And then if you have a different amount of yarn, there's instructions on how to weigh your yarn and make adjustments. So I wanted to make sure that if a spinner didn't come up with exactly the amount of yarn that I received to do this design, that they can make it work and end up with a beautiful piece. So that is a wee bit twisted, and it is in the winter issue of Ply Magazine. Now, I will definitely put a link in the description notes below, and I might even make it a first pinned comment. Of course, you can check your local yarn store if they carry Ply, and I highly encourage you to get it from them, but you can also buy directly from Ply on their website, so I will provide a link to that. Now, let's look at the magazine a little bit more. So here we have, okay, and actually there you can really see the picture. I sent them my leftovers. There's the picture of the 2 yarns I received. So we have all kinds of interesting articles in here. There's Why Not Lamb, the Prickle Factor, Spinning for Softness and Warmth. And then that has a cowl. I think that's the cover cowl. Knitted. So the way this magazine is structured is you'll have an article on spinning the yarn, and then an article on a pattern from someone on what to craft that yarn into. And then we have spinning for a fine, bulky yarn, which is mine. And by fine, they mean soft and bulky. And then there is a lace on how to spin lace. And then that is a beautiful shawl. And that is BFL Silk and Yak. Really cool. There's an article on the micron count of different fibers, how to prep it, luxury blending will probably make sense for other spinners, and spinning for luxurious weaving. And then there's a weaving pattern. There's a sewing pattern, spin it, core lock, and spiral. And there's a knit it and a crochet it locked collar. So it's the same yarn, but here it's this one here. So those are called locks. And it's kind of like the wool as it's shorn off the sheep. And there's a knitting pattern there, but there is also a crochet. So there's a whole thing on how to spin that funky yarn. And then here is the crochet version. You can see up here, you've got SKC, spin, knit, crochet. So that is really cool. Here's another crochet pattern. This beautiful collar. So those are all the really cool things. And honestly, there's way more in this magazine. Here's the weaving. It's just really cool. And it will inspire you maybe to try something new. Or, you know, if you just want to knit my cowl, also is in there. So that is the Ply Magazine, issue number 39 for winter 2022. I know it's 2023, but it's still the brand new issue. Now, I said we would talk a little bit about, and I've kind of gone over it and said in bits and pieces, but the way this worked is I was contacted by Ply Magazine, and they're like, we're doing a head, neck, and shoulders, and can you do something with bulky yarn? And I was like, that sounds like a whole bunch of fun. And then I waited for the yarn to come. So let me make sure we know. I want to say who. Okay, so the spinning of this yarn, my yarn that I used, was by Autumn Hiscock, and you can see the different yarns. So there's this whole article on how she spun it, and she played with different plies, and it's talking about how she did it, and none of it makes any sense to me. It's a Rambouillet, and it's really cool. So I admire anyone who can spin this absolutely beautiful yarn. So once the yarn came to me, then I had to decide what I was going to do with it. So I did swatching. And you see, as it came out, I really wanted to honor the yarn and create motion in the textures of the knitting pattern without taking away from or in any way overshadowing this beautiful yarn by getting too intricate or getting too wild. You know what I mean? So they sent the wool to the spinner spun it, they sent it to me, I knit it, and then I sent it back to the magazine for them to photograph it. So this whole process is rather lots of back and forth, but in the end, it's really satisfying because so many talented hands touched this, including the photographer, including the model, including the tech editor who reviewed my pattern, found a couple little things that I had made mistakes of, and we went back and forth and made sure the pattern was as accurate as we could get it. And so there you go. That is a wee bit twisted in the winter 2022 issue of Ply Magazine. I look at the back of it. Isn't that cool? So cool. Excited to finally be able to share this project with you because I've been sitting on it for a while. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, click that like button. And if you would like to be notified whenever I upload a new video, please subscribe to my channel and select notifications. Make sure you click that little bell so it will send you a little ding when I put a new video up. Thank you so much.